What is happening, everybody? Happy Sunday and welcome into this episode of Pucks from the Pine Tree Pod. I'm your host, Benjamin Kennedy. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We've had such a busy weekend in the NHL, and guess what? I'm not going to talk about any of it today. But not to worry, I'll be back tomorrow with what I'll call a night before Christmas pod as we get set for NHL free agency. And again on Tuesday to break down all the happenings from day one of the fiscal year, the new fiscal year for the league. And on Thursday, I think I'm safe to announce this now, I will be welcoming in from the Bruins Die Hard podcast, Court Lalonde. So we'll be breaking down all the Bruins draft news from the weekend and the first few days of free agency for our beloved Boston Bruins. But today, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome in my dear friend, director of movies and savant of all things concerning Maine high school sports, host of the Maine Basketball Rankings Report, our podcast, Lucas McNelly. How are you, my old friend?
Oh, I'm, living the dream. I'm waiting for Luke Cornett free agency news, so you guys start on the same day the NBA does? Is that what I'm getting?
Just kind of,
I
sort
think
of,
it's
yeah.
something like
It's
that.
all like within this first few
Okay.
days of each other. I
I'm
think.
very
Yeah.
stressed out about Luke Cornett free agency and, and Al Horford too, I guess.
Old man, old man. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, it all does kind of run concurrently, kind of within the same season for sure.
And I will apologize right now that of all the guests you've had on this show, I'm sure I know the least about hockey.
Yeah,
I know almost nothing.
That's why we're not going to talk hockey today.
All right, great,
We've
great.
got we'll have a hockey element, everybody. So don't worry. We will.
Yeah.
We'll
Is
rope
Jeremy
in,
Roenick still in the league? He's good. I know Jeremy Roenick's good.
He's good. He's good. NHL 94.
NHL 94, baby.
Yeah, that was great. He made an appearance during the draft. He made one of the Blackhawk picks on Friday night, so it's kind of cool to see him out there. But
Cool.
no, he's been retired for a good bit, but we all miss him. Even us non-Chicago fans miss him. But so how's the summer going? And are you ready to send the kids back to school already?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, only one of them goes to school now, so that's something. And Reese, who is going to be in the third grade,
Wow.
we're very much ready for him to go back to school. Like, oh my gosh.
How is he in third grade already?
I don't know.
That's ridiculous.
I don't know. He's all attitude.
Yeah, no, it sounds about right. That's good. That's good. Well, I just, both fathers to young boys, I'm embracing every season of it. And I just, Sundays, as I've shared before, kind of difficult for me. I had to send him back to to mama's. So happy to have a little distraction tonight here from that. But yeah, well, good. Well, hopefully the attitude will come down a little bit and throw him in the lake a few times and cool him off. And that might help. Well, good.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if we can. I'm trying to figure out if he can go to F1 yet. He's old enough for that.
Oh, the movie. Yes. Yeah. See, you're way up on movies. I am during hockey season. I don't follow anything but hockey, so I am in that season where I'll definitely be looking for some good movie recommendations. But
cool.
Before we dive into the Maine high school sports scene, really the topic of our discussion today, what are your thoughts on the recent Celtics trades?
I mean, they're not fun. But it's kind of the thing where they had to be done. They had to get out of the second apron because the second apron is ridiculous. And with Tatum's Achilles injury, chances are next year is a little bit of a lost year. So it was a good time. It was a good cloud cover, really, to get under the thing and get under the second apron. And I think they did pretty well in the trades. They got some stuff back. They didn't have to give up any first round picks to get off any of those salaries. And if they can hang on to White and Brown and Tatum somewhere near his previous levels, then they should be in pretty good shape. And next year is just going to be a lot of Peyton Pritchard. And that's always fun.
Yeah. Now, the guy they picked up from Portland, I was seeing some rumors, and I know don't always trust what the internet tells you, that they're already looking to maybe move him off to save some money. Is that in the works?
Peyton Pritchard?
No, the kid they picked up from Portland.
Yeah, he could be on the move. I bet it's 50-50 that he ever plays a game for the Celtics.
Wow.
Because he doesn't defend. So there's that. So I don't know how well he fits. He does shoot a ton of threes, so Missoula will like that, but he doesn't guard anybody. So
Hmm.
You know, it's a little bit of a step back. He's definitely no Drew Holiday.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, Holiday is going to be missed. I don't watch a lot of basketball, but the little bit I did watch last year, he just seemed to be a prototypical Celtic. The
Hmm.
defender. Good offensively, just a good team guy. I know he's older, there's big cap hit on that, so I understand why they move him. But when I saw
Yeah.
that news first break, I was like, that's got to be a little heavy.
And he'd kind of lost a step, so you had to know, like, sort of everyone in Celtic land was like, well, if they're gotta get under this second apron, it's going to be Holiday or Porzingis. Maybe they can keep one of them, but those were the two obvious ones, unless they did something crazy like trade Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, let's hope they don't do that. He's special, special player for
And if
sure.
they trade Derek White, well, we just riot. So there's that.
Well, that'll be fun. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Give us something to talk about this summer anyway,
He has
right?
his own Sam Adams commercials. You can't trade him. Like, that's like got to be a Massachusetts state law or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, something. There's got to be something written down about that. Once you have an advertisement with Sam Adams, there's no moving on. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, it. I had the funny feeling of like, is John Henry running the Celtics? I thought that a couple weeks ago, like all the
Oh,
trades. I'm
that's
like, oh
cold.
boy. Oh, but it's completely accurate. We won't go down that rabbit hole today, but I think my thoughts there. And
You're no
I'm
John
a
Henry fan, yeah. Now, I don't
yeah.
think it's the ownership's fault. Like, what are they going to do? Like, their best players doesn't have his towards Achilles tendon. Like, he's out for the year. Like, you're not going to contend. You're going to pay all this luxury tax to not contend.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Totally get it. Totally, totally get it. Well, good to get a little update just on where the Seas are at right now. And of course, I know, and a lot of your listeners, of course, know you cover high school basketball really is your number one here in the state of Maine. But
Hmm.
what is your second favorite high school sport to cover in Maine, and why?
I think it's probably football because it's that. Well, for one, the games don't start at 3 in the afternoon on a Tuesday,
Yeah.
so that's a little tricky if you have a job to get to those games. And I don't know how these parents get to all of these games and what their bosses think about any of this. But football is probably, you got the Friday night lights and everybody sort of comes out. And we didn't have that in Waldoboro when we were kids because Madomic didn't have a team, but Madomic has a team now and they're contenders. So it's a lot of fun to go to those games. And if you have a press pass, you can just stand right on the sidelines, which is super fun. And every time there's a hit and someone gets hit out of bounds, you're like, my God, I would break into 1,000 pieces. These kids are so young. How are they getting up?
It's awesome, and yeah, it's nice to see high school football really has. I feel like taking a step in Maine too. A lot of other schools,
Mm-hmm.
like you mentioned, Madomic now with the program, but I feel like it's just more competitive. I don't know if I'm just getting older and they're getting younger, but it just seems like it's a more competitive sport today than it was when we were growing up.
There's probably a little bit of that. And then we just, like, did we even pay attention that much? We would just hear, oh, Thornton Academy's good, but Thornton Academy's still good. They're just good in everything. And we would just hear about the big Class A schools down in southern Maine, and we weren't really aware of your Hermans. Well, I think Herman didn't have a team then either. But your smaller schools that have teams, like Levitt, not last year but the year before, they were in Class C and they were undoubtedly the best team in the state. Like they went and played big Class A schools like Thornton Academy and whipped them, and it was really like impressive.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, it's to that point, it's nice to see other schools outside of Thornton Academy or Greeley here where I'm from. We do
Hmm.
win a lot of things, but it's nice to see other
You do win a
schools
lot of
being able to
things.
step up. Yeah, right, right, right. Now to that point, a 10,000-foot macro level view, Lucas. How
Hmm.
would you describe the health of Maine high school sports today? I know that might be a loaded question, but just curious your thoughts on that.
I think it's really healthy, especially basketball. You go to the tournament, and these tournament games are just there's a lot of people at these games for not premier matchups. Your 4-5 game on a quarterfinal at the Augusta Civic Center will be packed. You know, so and then when you have some like a good game where teams are good, like I went this year to Falmouth Wyndham in Falmouth, and that place was packed on a Tuesday night, I think it was in January, and there were a lot of people there because and I think it's easier to follow it than it was in the past because all of these teams stream and the social media aspect of it all and the YouTube of it all. And so it's easier to catch and hear about teams that are good, where in previous years you would just be like, you would see who's on the TV highlights, and so that's a question of who's close enough that they can drive to that game. And now you hear about a team like Ashland or a team like Madawaska or Herman or Bangor or MDI, schools like that that maybe would fly under the radar in the old media ecosystem.
Yeah, nice to hear it's healthy. As I mentioned, I'm in the Greeley system here, and just a very vibrant sports scene here with Greeley, Falmouth, Yarmouth, all three of those schools, North Yarmouth Academy, all just so competitive and strong. Of course, resources are not a problem, in some of these towns down here. Do you find the equity around the state is improving, or is it still, those Camdens, Cape
Mm-hmm.
Elizabeth, Cumberland, Greeley, Falmouth type schools are always going to have an edge?
They're always going to have a little bit of an edge, but the most consistently good team in the state is Madomic Valley, and that is not an economic high tide area. There's tides, when for clamming,
On the
but
hill.
that's the most consistent program probably in the state. But yeah, you have Caribou is. I don't think Caribou is at the top of anyone's list of teams that have an advantage, and they just won both gold balls this last year. Penobscot Valley is really good. Valley is really good again because why not? And yeah, I think if you can build your feeder system and you can have a youth program, there's no reason in the world that you can't compete with the big kids and the rich kids. And, as Bill Murray says in Rushmore, take dead aim at the rich kids. So, Camden's fine. Camden's going to be really good this year. They might have Mr. Basketball in Nolan Ames. But they were down for 4 or 5 years. And now they're back.
Nice, nice. Yeah, and I mean, I'd like that point too. All starts with those youth programs, not just the junior high and middle school, but the little guys. Guys, my kiddo's age and your kiddo's age, right? We just had our first winter basketball for the little guys this
Nice.
past winter, and Brent was part of it. Just 4 weeks, just 45 minutes on a Saturday with the varsity coach at Greeley, and they did such a great job. I mean, they basically just made them run, and to take a few shots here and there.
Dribble
But the head
around.
coach, yeah, the head coach did such a great job. He was just so personable, and all the kids were really engaged in it. And of course, all of us parents are sitting there like, "Oh, you go to sleep good tonight, little guy. I liking this. This is good." But back to the point, it starts there, and I think that's part of why basketball in the state of Maine, from a high school level, has always been pretty strong because those youth programs around the state have been pretty healthy, going back to when you and I were growing up here, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that program when we were growing up, we would go to all this summer stuff, and it's still going, and it's still run by the varsity head coach. And if you can get that system to be self sufficient, then you're gonna have your ups and downs, but you're gonna be fine over the long term, and you're gonna be in contention for stuff every couple years. And where you have problems is where the parents don't like the coach, and there's all this backfighting, and there's all this drama, and they can't find someone to do the volunteering, and they can't do this, and they don't have coaches for the youth programs and all that. But if you can get the community into it, and it doesn't take a ton, then you're fine. Then your program will be fine, and then it's just about executing on the day.
And that's a perfect segue, Lucas, into my next question here, my next kind of topic. Overzealous parents, of course, always a potential problem, right? Throughout youth
Yeah.
sports, not just basketball, not just here in Maine, but last basketball season, Lucas, you did a fantastic job documenting what appeared to be an uptick in incidents throughout the state at basketball games. First of all, do you feel bad parent behavior is on the rise, or is it just the fact we all have cameras now? And if it is on the rise, what in the world can schools do to curb this trend?
I think it's a little bit on the rise, and then I also think it's that we have cameras now on our phones. Because in the 80s and 90s, it was pretty raucous, and it's actually a lot less raucous now in a lot of places, but that just makes the bad parents stand out because you can hear them better. And what you'll see in a lot of these incidents where it's an issue will be like a girls' basketball game that's not close. And so everyone's like, it's like a 30-point game, and everyone's like, okay, let's move this along. Let's get out of here without an injury.
Right,
and you got some idiot screaming bloody murder because he thinks this travel call is going to swing the game or something. And that's where it really becomes an issue. And I just, in terms of documenting it, I think it's really important to show this sort of behavior for a number of reasons. Because one, you get to, so I'll say this, the first one that I put up, I was at the game and I was in the shot. You can see my hands like in the video. And so people were like, oh, you don't realize how bad the refs were. The refs were just so bad. And I was like, dude, I was there. The refs were fine. Like, I'm the first guy to tell you if the refs were bad. They were fine. And, I had a lot of people then say, oh, you got to take that down. This poor guy, he's getting harassed and people are yelling at him. And I'm like, well, then don't be an idiot at a high school basketball game. Like, Spotlight is the great disinfectant for these things. And I had a number of refs during the tournament come up to me and thank me for posting these things because they deal with this stuff all the time. And, no one really tends to believe them. And it's also really great for your social media numbers. So, so there's that.
We all like seeing those, parents gone bad, videos out there. And
people love the videos.
And I have zero sympathy for someone's, take the video down. This poor guy, like you said, be better. Be better. That's your kid out there. That's your child out there. How embarrassing for the kids. And I do have a story about that, talking about girls basketball. And my sister's going to hate me for bringing this up, but my older sister did play one season of freshman basketball at Madomic Valley. And of course, a pretty good sized gym,
it's a loud gym too.
Loud gym. It's freshman high school game. So there's 12 people in the stands, probably.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother, Christine, was one of them. And
I can see where this is going already.
Oh my goodness, Lucas. And I'm there with my mom, and I can't remember if my dad was there. And my grandmother, this little old lady, just goes on this just cursed laced rant as loud as she had a booming voice when she wanted to. And at one point, because it's Waldoboro, and if you're not from Waldoboro, everybody knows everybody, and everybody's related to everybody. It's part of why I moved out of there. So at the coaches are trying to calm her down. My mother is just embarrassed. My poor sister's out there, at the foul line, just beat red in the face, just kind of distraught. I was just like in awe of what I was watching. And I got such a kick out of it. The ref turns around and says, Christine, if you don't calm down, we're getting the cops to get you hauled out of here. The fact the ref knew her first name, I was like, that's Waldoboro right there, man. That is quintessential Waldoboro.
I've seen a number of coaches turn around and yell at their own fans.
Yeah.
They're like, will you shut up? You're not helping.
No.
Where the sport where it's the worst, though, is field hockey. Field hockey has because no one knows the rules of field hockey.
Okay.
Because they're very confusing. And because Lucy, my stepdaughter, was a field hockey goalie for like 3 years. And I went to a bunch of games and I still don't know all the rules. And I'm like a pretty smart guy who knows the rules of things and figures these things out pretty quickly. And I'm like, I have no idea why they're blowing a whistle here. So you'd have parents screaming at the ref, like, how can you make that blah, 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 blah? And then they'll turn to the person next to them and like, what is the rule there?
Yeah, might want to be informed before you start losing your mind at an official, right? Yeah. Oh boy, it's and I have no doubt as the season gets started again, you're gonna have plenty more content around this.
I hope so.
So just be warned, parents out there. Lucas will be on the prowl. He will have his camera going. So
I got people sending me videos all the time.
I love it.
There's a parent gets tossed and my DMs just light up.
Love it. That's awesome. Well, beyond that, problem that we have that may
Mm-hmm.
not be fixable. If you had one wish and you could fix one thing about Maine high school basketball today, what would that one thing be?
My answer always and forever is the shot clock.
Okay.
We need a shot clock. It's embarrassing that we don't have a shot clock. There's all these games where if you got like a 5 point lead with 2 minutes left, they're just stalling in the tournament, and that's not great for anybody. But if you're like me and you're there all day, oh my gosh, it gets really exhausting, and it's detrimental to play, it's detrimental to development and everything else, and it's so stupid. And all the arguments of people say, "Oh, we can't afford it," are complete nonsense. There's always money for something. There's always money for new scoreboards. There's always money. It's not hard to raise money, that amount of money for something like that. You could get a car dealership to sponsor it. There's a million different ways to fix it. But I will say the thing that I can't believe we haven't fixed yet, and this is a national thing, and it's staggering to me that this hasn't been fixed, is I don't know why we don't have a restricted circle in high school basketball. Because it's a can of paint, and it's a safety thing, and it just there's so many block charge calls where the kid's right under the basket and you move them out, however many feet it is, 5 feet, whatever. You're going to have fewer guys, fewer collisions, fewer dangerous plays, and it's the easiest fix in the world, and I can't for the life of me figure out why it's not been implemented yet.
Because you had that in college, all levels of college, right? Of course, you had it in the NBA, WNBA. Yeah, that's and one I hadn't thought of, but that's odd. That's weird.
And it's a safety thing. It's such it's like where the most injuries happen probably, and it's an easy fix. I mean, they took away the 1-and-1 for free throws for injury concerns, and have you ever seen someone get injured on the rebounding of a free throw, like in your life?
No.
Like I couldn't believe that one. That's a terrible rule.
So what is the pushback on the shot clock? Going back to that one for a second.
Money.
Just money.
Just money. Money, and people want to go back to 1950. And those are really the two arguments. People think they can't afford it, or they think they won't be able to find someone, or they're like, oh, they're just going to be chucking the ball at the basket and, rushing up and down the floor. And they won't. They'll adapt really quickly. Every time it's tried, the players adapt really quickly. They did it at a Christmas tournament at the Civic Center one year, and it took the players like 3 minutes to figure it out. And it took the officials most of the day, and the people running the board most of the day, but they figured it out. Sure. It's not, because it's not that hard for the players. They watch basketball with the shot clock. They get it.
Yeah, they get it. And any of these kids going on to college, I mean, they're going to have to adjust to it then anyway. And I can't imagine. I mean, I don't know if you have this number. I didn't prep you with this question, but throughout the country, how many states don't have a shot clock?
I think it's. Oh, I looked at this the other day because Wyoming just voted it down. I want to say it's 35-ish, somewhere in there that have it. That have it, yeah. I have a great solution that they'll never do, but would 100% fix the problem. Okay, so you say, okay, because the tournament sites all have a shot clock already.
Of course.
Right? So you say, look, we're going to have in 2 years or 3 years or whatever it is, we're going to have the shot clock and we're going to turn it on for the tournament games. Now, if you would like to have a shot clock in your gym, great. If you don't want to have a shot clock in your gym, if you're Vinyl Haven and it's a legitimate financial concern, that's cool too. But it's going to be on for the tournament games. And how many schools do you think would find the money almost immediately?
I mean, the money's there, to your point. Find a car dealership, find somebody locally to sponsor.
I bet 80% of the schools, I bet 80% would have a shot clock without breaking a sweat.
I'm sure you're right.
Especially the good programs, anyone with any sort of playoff aspirations, you'd be crazy not to have a shot clock. Yeah. And there'd be someone in the community who would be like, hey, I got you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just think, again, I don't watch high school basketball like you do, but I remember some of those games where you just they're just playing keep away or they're just holding on to the ball. And that's not the spirit of the game, and
No.
it's part of the rules. So you can get away with it right now. But I would much prefer the kids going up and down and chucking the ball up there. I mean, I know they won't do that
Yeah.
either, but that'd be more exciting than what we often see out there. Right.
Yeah, you see people sometimes go, well, you just play defense and then they can't stall if you play great defense. No, not really. That's, it's pretty hard to steal the ball from a weave or a four corners or something like that. It's pretty hard to steal the ball if they're not playing basketball, if they're just holding on, if they got it tucked under their arm or something. And their only goal is to play keep away.
Yeah, and now we're talking a whole different sport, right? That's
Yeah.
just not in the spirit of the sport.
And it's boring.
Yeah. Yes. Not good for TV. Not good for TV.
Yeah,
Much like our
geez.
Boston Bruins were not good for TV this year. So is high school
That was
basketball without a shot clock. Yeah, well, it's the truth. It's just the truth. I am a truth sayer here on this channel, so I
That's
can't
important.
deny that.
You got to be a true sayer.
Yeah. Well, getting to our kind of main topic du jour today, Cooper Flagg, of course, his draft potential, it's been anticipated for a few years now. Post-draft, though, Lucas, we sit back. Truly, how unlikely was it that a basketball player from Maine not only gets drafted, but also goes number one overall? Or was it simply just bound to happen at some point?
I mean, if you get enough monkeys on typewriters, you're going to get Shakespeare eventually. So I guess it had to happen at some point. I figured the first Mainer, because we don't count Jeff Teague. I know he, satisfies the Tim Sample rule, but we don't count him. We don't count Duncan Robinson, who also satisfies the Tim Sample rule. I think since that was the closest hospital,
Maybe
because he was born in York. I thought the first Mainer to make it to the NBA would be like a Sam Hauser, would be a shooter, probably a white kid, a shooter who went to the G League, worked his way up, and just, grinded it out until he got a two-way contract and turned, something like that. So for it to be the number one overall pick in the draft and the clear-cut, no-brainer number one overall pick in the draft is a little nuts. I mean, it's crazy. If this is some kid in like city, you'd be like, oh yeah, okay, sure. But for a kid from Newport, and then a lot of things had to go right for that, beyond just Cooper having an insane work ethic and being 6'9" or whatever he is and so athletic. But the fact that his parents were basketball junkies and that they were friends with Andy Bedard, who you remember as one of the greats. And then the fact that somehow Scal found out about him and saw him and was impressed and took him under his wing a little bit, that opens a lot of doors. And so it's a little bit of it takes a village sort of a situation. And I think it had to have helped that he had a twin brother playing him one-on-one who's a really good basketball player on his own right. And, that's a lot different than being a single kid who's just shooting out in the driveway, or having older brothers to play against. Having someone who's essentially your equal to go one-on-one against all the time has to help a lot. And so, I think, but the kid has an insane work ethic. And that's the big thing.
Yeah, and a good lesson to, kiddos out there, how do you make it? I mean, yeah, you have to be talented, right? But that work ethic is so huge. And I'm going to put you on the spot here for a second. In 15 years from now, what are we saying about Cooper Flagg?
That's a good question. I had a parent come up to me before a game last year, and he goes, this Cooper Flagg thing, is there a ceiling to this? Because it sure seems like there should be a ceiling, but he keeps going up. And I go, I don't know, man. I was skeptical of him at first because I don't trust AAU hype tapes. I just don't. I think they're stupid. But I think there's no reason to believe that in 15 years he's got at least a championship. He's made some all NBA teams. Yeah, I think I don't know if I don't want to say like, oh, he's going to be the MVP, he's the next LeBron or whatever, because that's sort of the 100th percentile of maxing it all out. But I mean, I see no reason to think he's not going to have a really, really good career in the NBA. I don't think he's like going to flame out. I don't think he's Darko, or something like that.
Not going
He's
to be
going to have
Marcus Russell or anything like that from
no,
football.
no, no, no. He's a legit number one overall pick, and he makes everything around him better in a way that it almost doesn't matter what system you have, what other players you have. You can put him in any system and he's going to be fine, and he's going to be additive. If you need him to be the number one scorer, great. If you don't need him to be the number one scorer, great. He has insane defense instincts. He's just really, really, really good basketball player.
Yeah, and you saw that a little bit at Duke last year, right? Or maybe a lot of it, where he could be kind of that Swiss Army knife. He could be whatever the team needed him to be that night. I mean, a couple games, again, didn't watch a lot, but the few games I did watch, because it does take a kid from Maine to make me watch college basketball now, by the way, truth be told.
Okay,
But
that's fair.
it was impressive to see. Like, there were times where when wasn't shooting, but he was doing everything else on the court. And then I watched a couple other games where he was lighting it up for 30 points or whatever. And so I think that definitely translates to the NBA for sure. Just hope he can survive Kyrie Irving, right?
That's my big worry, is that
Yeah.
Kyrie's going to introduce him to something, and he's going to be on some sort of vision quest, and going to miss half the season because he's on a vision quest of some kind.
Crazy.
Yeah, so I could tell you the story the first time I saw him, because that was his year at Nokomis was the year I took off because I was trying to get a movie made, and I probably didn't need to do that. But anyway, so I came back for the tournament, and I was sitting kind of about where the angle you can see behind me, and he's playing Coney in the semifinals, and I hadn't seen him yet, and I'm still like skeptical. I'm like, oh, how good could he really be? Because people love to hype up the AAU stuff, and AAU can be hot garbage sometimes. I forget what Andy Bedard called it in the Ringer article, like trash basketball or something like that. So he's defending, and Coney's really good that year, and they can really light it up. It was a TJ Maine's team, and they just ran up and down the floor and shot a ton of threes. And it was kind of a little bit like the Pacers, a little bit. So he's Cooper's on defending a 3-point shooter, defending, I believe it was Luke Briggs, who's got a quick trigger. So they pass the ball from half court to Briggs. Cooper runs for it to try to intercept the pass, misses it, and so his momentum is taking him towards half court. Briggs catches, shoots, and Cooper manages to stop, turn around, and block the shot.
Wow.
And I just went, oh, okay. I get it now. That's
different.
Nuts.
That's
different. That you don't ever see that. And then I was just like, okay, that's all I need. I'm in. Yeah. And he's improved constantly since then. At that point he was, his handle wasn't great and his shot wasn't great. And then like you just looking at him at Duke, like if you watched every like fifth game, you'd be like, isn't he better than he was last time I saw him? Is the handle's a little better, I think, than it was 2 weeks ago. I mean, it's just that sort of stuff.
Yeah. It's funny. You can tell when a player is transcending beyond sports. My mom and my stepdad's a Flagg. My mom's last name is now Flagg. And I used to deal with this as a Kennedy, of course, all the time. Oh, you're related to JFK, blah, blah, blah. If you ever meet me in person, don't ever ask me if I'm related to JFK.
Especially not RFK. Not RFK Jr. for sure.
None of them. Man, the whole different. Actually, there were 2 Kennedy families in Waldoboro. We were not related. So, but going back to the point here, you can tell when a player has transcended sports. When my parents are at the local Hannaford getting asked, "Oh, are you related to that Cooper character?" And it's like, oh God, people, no.
Now they've got 15 more years of that now.
Oh yes.
Well, because everybody
in
everybody in Maine knows each other, so.
Yes.
Which is not untrue.
It's really not. It's really not. I've got all kinds of other stories I could talk about that in my travels, but that's we'll say that
I
for
got
another
one.
day.
I got one for you.
All right.
So,
All right.
in college, I had this friend, and he was a bit of a smartass, just like that sort of sarcastic, dry sense of humor guy. Okay, so he goes to Israel for some reason. I have no idea why he goes to Israel, but he goes to Israel over the summer or something, and he meets this guy from Maine, right? And so he does what the smart ass guy does in that situation. He's like, "Oh, you're from Maine. You must know Lucas McNelly." And the guy goes, "Yeah, yeah, I do, because you know who that was? It was Mike Robertson."
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Yeah, high school student that we both went to high school with. For those who don't know, but yeah,
And there's so many of
that's
those
funny.
stories.
Yeah, I've got a really bizarre story that I don't know if I should tell it or not. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to tell it.
Do it.
I've got the scarlet letter of having 2 divorces, so I got the punch card now at divorce court, which is great. But
Do you
my
get a
first,
sandwich for the third one? Like, how? What's the prize
I
at the end of that tunnel?
hope I never find out. Okay, hope I never find out. But my first ex-wife, I won't mention her name, but we were married for a few years. I lived up in the Belfast area, but we're on date number 2 or date number 3, something like that. We had, we had already had some time together, let's say, fill in the blanks. And we're driving from her apartment in Belfast to my house in Rockland, or my apartment in Rockland. And we go by this law office, this Cloutier law office. And as we're driving by, she's like, "Oh, my Uncle Joe, that's his law office." I look and I'm like, and I slowly pull the car over to the curb and I say, "Well, that's funny." I said, "My cousin Chad Cloutier, he works with his Uncle Joe in that same office."
Yee.
She goes white, I go white, and we both get on the phones with our mothers. Come to find out, we were fine. It was different sides of the family, but her mom has like a connection between her mom and my cousin's dad's side of the family, so no blood relation for sure. We definitely vetted that out. But when I say that's why I moved out of the mid coast area down here, that's why, like, I was that close to having that
That's
nightmare scenario. But
Yeah,
that
that's
is Maine
dangerous.
for you, man. That is Maine. Maybe I shouldn't have shared that. Maybe I'll regret that. But
Eh,
it was a very scary 10 minutes. Let's put it that way.
yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, moving on. How can we segue from that? But pro athletes coming out of Maine, Lucas, right? We've had a
Hmm.
number of them already. WNBA has been represented, of course. Major League Baseball, Billy Swift, of course, being maybe the most famous name. NHL, of course, this channel's main content. Garnet Hathaway from Kenny Bunk, Oliver Wallstrom here from this area, North Yarmouth area. Brian Dumolin from Biddeford, a couple times name on the cup. And now, of course, Carter Amico, drafted yesterday from Westbrook, just drafted 38th overall by Phillies. A very high pick there for him. So congrats to him. And I know we have, Samuelson, former Olympian from Maine as well. With all
Joni.
that said, yeah, I mean, with all that said, is it too easy to say at this point that Cooper's just going to be the best ever pro athlete coming out of the state of Maine?
The problem is, so he's not yet. And a lot of people like to go, "Oh, he's the best ever," and it's like, oh,
Very,
yeah, but
very
like,
hyperbole, yeah. Right.
I mean, like, you could make the argument for best basketball player ever.
Mhm.
Some people will argue back at you, Cindy Blodgett, because Cindy Blodgett was,
Oh, yeah.
as one person said, Steph Curry is Cindy Blodgett on a national scale.
Mm.
Cindy Blodgett was awesome.
And I'm going to
And
stop you. Isn't there a woman that plays for the Seattle WNBA
yeah,
team who's
Mackenzie
from
Holmes,
Mackenzie? Yes.
she had a fantastic career. So he's going to pass both of them if unless Kyrie leads them out into the wilderness and they get lost.
Yeah.
Um,
Looking for the
but
edge of the flat Earth.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But you could make an argument that Joan Benoit-Samuelson is the greatest women's marathoner of all time.
Mm.
So that's a pretty high bar. And Billy Swift had a pretty good career.
He did.
So he's going to have to do some stuff to, to pass a Billy Swift or maybe some of these hockey guys and certainly Joni. I mean, she holds, I don't know how many marathon records. won Boston, won the Olympics, has like the record for the fastest marathon at 50 years old, stuff like that. Oh, I almost got that fly. So, I mean, there's quite a few really good. Ben True is another Mainer who's an excellent distance runner. He's one of the top 10K runners in the country. So there's some competition, but I think he's gonna, within probably 2 years, he'll have the basketball title sewn up.
Yeah. I mean, I put Brian Dumolin up there. He's played, I think, almost 800 games in the NHL, 2 Stanley Cups, of course, those years with Sidney Crosby in Pittsburgh. So very stout defenseman. Doesn't get all the accolades because he's not a scorer, right? He's more of a blue line type guy, but he may be, I don't know, hockey guys could probably tell me better, but he might be the best maybe to come out of Maine in terms of the hockey world.
Isn't there a hockey guy who played with Roenick on that? I seem to remember the name from the video game, and then I saw his name mentioned recently, like Weinrich or something.
Maybe I'd have to look it up. Yeah, I'd have to look that one up. No, I can't think of it off the top of my head. I think you're right, but I cannot recall it right now. But interesting. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch Cooper. And as you mentioned earlier, of course, we have Ace, who's going to Orono next year.
I think they're very excited.
How significant will his presence be for that UMaine Black Bears program?
That's a good question. It's gonna be, marketing wise, it's gonna be huge for them because it's gonna give them a spotlight in a way that they haven't had a spotlight in a very long time. Just because he's Ace Flagg and he's Cooper's brother, and we remember him from the Nokomis team and the Maine United teams and all of that. How much he'll play, I don't know. I haven't seen Ace play in a couple years, so I don't really know where his game is, what level his game is at. I assume he's going to be useful to them, though. I mean, I think he'll get minutes. The question is, how many? And the other question is, can they finally make the tournament?
Oh, they've been close a couple times recently too, haven't they? Yep, you're back.
All right, I'm back.
Good.
All right.
Yeah, I mean they've been close to the tournament a couple times, right? Was it last
they
year?
Were they were the regional final or the conference championship game. Sorry, the conference championship game last year.
Gotcha. Well, interesting. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see him up there, see what impact he makes. And is he an NBA prospect, do you think, at all?
I don't know if he's a prospect. Could he play in the NBA? Maybe. I don't think he's Ozzie Canseco in that he's, just sort of the guy you bring along because the brother's on the team.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a legitimate basketball player. He played really well. Last time I think I saw him was the Maine United Peach Jam tournament, and he was really good in that.
Nice.
It just got overshadowed by the fact that Cooper was averaging a triple-double or whatever.
I mean, it's hard to live up to that. But, yeah, it'd be definitely worth checking out, worth watching as we get into this next year. So I'm going to turn a little bit here now, Lucas. Turn to hockey for just a moment.
Okay.
People in Southern California still discuss the impact that Wayne Gretzky had when traded to the LA Kings. Before that,
I remember that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big deal. And hockey at the time, it was fine. It was being followed. But once Wayne arrived, he attracted so many kids to the sport. He sort of single-handedly created an ice hockey kind of youth movement in SoCal. Now, listen, I'm not going to compare Cooper Flagg to Wayne, right? That would be just kind of a silly thing to do.
Yeah.
But Flagg's significant on Maine high school basketball will absolutely be felt, right?
Oh, it's huge. Yeah. It's the youth numbers are, I assume they're exploding because, I mean, they had that game where they came back and played at the hockey rink in Portland, and it sold out like instantly. And then they added another game at the Expo, and that sold out instantly. And there were so many kids there, and there were so many kids in like Duke jerseys at tournament games this year. And, part of that is just the excitement of the kid from Maine, blah, blah, blah. But also a lot of it is that Cooper keeps coming back and doing stuff for the kids and things like that. And he came back for his high school graduation, quote unquote, that would have been his high school graduation and stuff like that. And so it seems like, and I don't want to speak for him, but it seems like he intends to stay active in the state. And if he stays active in the state, then that's going to do a lot for the youth programs, not just at Nokomis, but sort of statewide.
Yeah. And more to that question, kind of a follow-up, we think about, scouts. I mean, the little bit of time I spent, the very little bit of time I spent in scouting, I realized that a lot of scouts like to have like associate scouts coming up to these far off places like Maine, where they just don't have time to kind of focus. Do we expect Cooper's impact to transcend beyond basketball? And do you think that just the fact he came out of Maine will attract more scouts to maybe spend a little bit more time up here throughout all sports?
Maybe. They won't laugh when someone says, I heard about this kid from Maine who's pretty
Yeah.
good, but for basketball, they'll probably see him at an AAU thing. And, that might be in Boston or whatever. So they wouldn't have to travel as far, but it's going back to stuff being streaming. That's going to make it a lot easier for kids to get found in, whereas before, like when my uncle played, I don't think there were a lot of scouts, college or whatever, driving up to Bath to watch him play. I just don't think that was a thing back in 1960, whatever, in the way that it is now, where they can just sort of watch some highlight clips of a kid and go on Instagram and go, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then watch a couple games streaming, something like that. And then be like, well, all right, maybe now I'll go up to Bath.
Yeah. 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 It's nice. I think you said it correctly there too. Like people aren't going to laugh or scoff at you when you say, oh, this kid from Maine, because hey, not just Cooper, but not to be overshadowed, Amico being drafted this weekend too, 38th overall in the NHL draft. That's
not nothing.
Darn high to a Philly team that's has a lot of roots here from the old Maine Mariner days. So
yeah, and I think part of it is that I have this thing this idea that I'm workshopping, that I think Maine has a stronger brand than people realize. Because you hear, like, if you hear somebody says, oh, I went to New Hampshire, they go, okay. And if you hear someone say, oh, I went to Maine, they go, oh, it's different because it's up here in the corner, and because it's vacation land and it's moose and lobster. I think Maine as a state has more cachet than people realize. And then, I was listening to Zach Lowe's podcast, and he was complaining about like all this Maine stuff, like Maine, we get it. He went to Maine. He's from Maine. And I don't think he realizes that Maine is not that he is from this small town in the middle of nowhere. It's that he's from this small town that's part of basically a state that's one small town, and he's got the entire state behind him. It's not just the 3,500 people from Newport or whatever. It's every basketball fan in the entire state of Maine is 100% behind him. And you can't say that about any other state or any other area. Even a city wouldn't be like, I used to live in Pittsburgh and nobody cared. No one was like, oh, this kid from Pittsburgh is going to play football. And people go, cool. Another one, like no one, you didn't have like all of even Beaver County wasn't behind Ty Law when he played for the Patriots.
Yeah.
Like
that may have been something to do with him playing for the Patriots. Like we can get into that.
Right. But like Cooper could have gone to the Lakers and we would have all hated it, but we would have all cheered for him.
Yeah. Not
we'd have been like
support. Yeah.
We've been like, get out of there as quickly as you can.
Yeah.
Please.
I mean, to your point, there's a plethora of riches, talk about Western PA and football, Ontario or Quebec for hockey, like, throw a dart and there's a hockey player from whatever small town in Quebec that's in the NHL today. But not the case here, right?
Yeah. And because he's the only one, and because Maine is like obsessed with basketball to a degree that people don't realize outside of the state, it's like a Indiana of the Northeast. In a lot of ways with high school basketball. It's this thing where there's everyone, people in Caribou, people in Presque Isle, people in Eastport, like Portland, they're all like, yeah, Cooper, 100% in.
Right. Right. And going back to your point too about just how kind of unique Maine is, like we also forget that the Sports Business Journal, and we're not talking high school now, but the Sports Business Journal last season ranked Portland as the #1 minor league city in the country.
I saw it. Yeah, that's right.
Actually, Dexter Payne broke that news on this channel, which thank you, Dexter. That was lovely. But I'm not sure he was supposed to. I don't even think it was out yet. But he was like, I'm not sure if I should say this, but he did. He did. So, but it's, Maine's kind of have it cooking a little bit in some ways.
Look how Hearts of Pine is doing.
That,
Like they're crushing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of getting. I want to go to a game. I'm thinking of getting a kit. Do they call it a kit?
I don't know, a season pass or something. I'm not sure.
No, like the jersey. I think the jersey is called a kit.
Don't know.
Something
I'm not
like
speaking
that.
my language. So
Yeah, I don't know. I know it's 1-0 and everybody's happy. I mean, it's but I need more scoring in my sports.
I don't live very far from there. I definitely need to check out a game. Haven't been able to get to one yet, but a wild success so far. So that's
yeah. I mean, the Sea Dogs are doing great. The Maine Celtics are doing great. Like, I makes sense. Yeah.
And listen, the Mariners, I mean, despite the year they had, they increased their attendance big time. One of their best attendance seasons of all year. Cool. Adam Goldberg, the CEO, was just named the Executive of the Year in the ECHL. So despite the fact they didn't make the playoffs, a lot of other successes around the team having good building blocks. So yeah, there's a lot of good energy right now. And I think Cooper in his own right is a big part of that. Now, of course, we're in the summertime, Lucas, but not very far away from the 25-26 high school sports season coming. And we're not just talking basketball, but, can you tell us which student athletes we should be keeping an eye on? Are there any next Cooper Flagg types on the horizon?
Okay, so there's this kid in Madawaska. Speaking of being from the middle of nowhere, Quinn Pelletier, who was an 8th grader last year, and because Madawaska is so small, he got to play. He scored, I'm going to say this number, and I might be wrong, but it's in the ballpark. I think it was 43 points in a regional final as an 8th grader. So that's someone to keep an eye on.
That's good.
Yeah, that's really good. There's the younger Breen kid is Bailey Breen's younger sister. I think she's still at Montvert. She's was an 8th grader last year, I think. Yeah, she was an 8th grader last year and got injured and missed I believe the entire season. But she's really good. So there's some talent. Mr. Basketball might be Nolan Ames from Camden, who's super, super fun. There's a couple of kids from Wyndham who will be in the mix for that, and then we'll sort it all.
Sure.
As Maddie Provost is a really good senior this year, coming up senior for Lawrence. She's been one of the best players in the state for the last couple of years, and got knocked out of the tournament the last 2 years, but won the gold ball her freshman year. So there's quite a lot of talent. The women's basketball seems to produce more high level than the men for some reason. Mackenzie Holmes didn't even win Miss Basketball.
True.
I mean, that's just how good, because Anna DeWolf won it deservedly. And Anna DeWolf, they were both unbelievable. And they both had really good college careers.
Would you say that what you just said about the women's side tends to produce a little bit more high-end talent? Does it have anything to do with the long-term success of the UMaine women's program and Cindy Blodgett?
Hurt. Yeah, it can't hurt. That's probably a factor. Yeah, I would think that's probably a factor. I mean, it might be. Football might be a factor. I don't. Just because
there's no football for women.
There's no football for women. Yeah. So there's fewer competing. There's not fewer competing sports, but there's also, like, hockey's not as big for
not yet.
Women. So, and the sort of the competing sport for the winter season is cheerleading. And, you can say what you want about that.
They're athletes.
Yeah. It's just you're not gonna lose your best basketball player You're not likely to
Correct.
lose your best basketball player to
Correct.
cheerleading, whereas you might lose your best basketball player, men's basketball player to football. They might, or to soccer, or to something,
Yeah.
where they want to focus on that all the
I
way.
Yeah, it's funny. I think there was a kid, I can't remember his name, just got drafted yesterday. I think it was by the Penguins. And I think he was a high school quarterback as well. And I had a
Mm-hmm.
really good quarterback season. And so I forgive me if I'm wrong. I can't remember the kid's name. I think it was Pittsburgh. But of course, all the jokes about, oh, maybe the Steelers will siphon him off and
Yeah,
he can step in for Aaron Rodgers if it doesn't go well next year, right? I don't know.
yeah, they might need him.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll save the Steeler jokes for later. But well, good, good. Now, of course, we are sadly, hockey is over for me, and I'm looking for some things to do now. There'll be plenty of
Sure.
hockey to talk about, but you are, of course, independent film director, way into the movie scene. Can you give me a few good recommendations to get me through this summer? Because as much as I love watching baseball, and my
Yeah.
Blue Jays just took it to the Red Sox today, I'm happy to see that. But I need a few good movie recommendations. What do you
All
got?
right. Okay, so I saw two in the theater this weekend. Because I'm getting, cause now my kid's old enough. So the problem, I wasn't going to the movies for a while because I had a young kid, and then COVID, and you get out of the habit. And so I'm trying to get back in the habit of going to see things in the theater, which is not to say I wasn't watching movies. I was watching like 600 movies a year, something like that. So I saw F1 last night,
Okay.
which is the Brad Pitt race car movie, and it's basically Cars live action, but the driving scenes are really cool, and Brad Pitt's an old feisty, salty race car driver who knows all the tricks, bends all the rules and stuff like that. So that's fun. It's predictable, but it's super fun. 28 years later
Okay.
is pretty fun. It's a bit crazy.
Sure.
But I was at 28 years later, and the opening scene is this Teletubbies thing, which is the most horrifying thing in the movie. This
Cool.
just footage from the Teletubbies, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, we let children watch this? This is awful." And then, and then the zombies show up, which is not a spoiler because it's a zombie movie.
It's a zombie movie. Yeah.
And these two old ladies next to me start talking to each other, and they lean over to me. They go, "What movie are we watching?" I go,
Oh
"This is
no. Oh
28 years later." She's like, "Oh no." They were in the wrong movie.
Wrong
They,
theater.
they thought they were seeing F1. So they were
Oh boy.
very confused. But those are both pretty good. If you can still find Sinners in a theater, Sinners is really good.
Okay.
And I
All
say
right.
this as someone who has not liked a single movie that director has made. I am the person who at Sundance said Fruitvale is garbage. And I really liked Sinners. It's like a vampire movie. It's like a old, like set in the 30s, I think. Vampire movie down south. The music's amazing.
Great.
And then what else did I see? The Phoenician Scheme, the new Wes Anderson,
Oh yes. How was that?
it's quite good.
Good.
I think it's his best since well, let's not say best. Let's say it's the one I enjoyed the most since Moonrise Kingdom.
Okay. And he's the one that did Royal Tenenbaums,
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
And Benicio del Toro is awesome in it. He's just like
Naturally. Yeah, he's amazing
he's
anyway.
he's great in it. Michael Cera is so funny in it. Um,
Nice.
so that's definitely worth it. And then there's a new Paul Thomas Anderson movie coming out called One Battle After Another that looks awesome. That also has Benicio del Toro and has DiCaprio. And the new or the last Mission Impossible, I think, is still in theaters. So here's my pitch to you: is that the first hour is terrible. It's like I am sitting there watching it, going, I think this is a rough cut of the film. Like this is
Oh
a
no.
mess. This is a disaster. But then they get to a submarine, and the submarine scene is pretty cool.
All
And
right.
then they get to this biplane thing at the end, and oh my god, it's you're just like worried that like Tom Cruise is actually dead,
Oh
and they just
no.
haven't told anybody yet because you're like, how is he doing this? Like, and I know how they're doing it, and I'm going, how? No, really, how are they doing this? This doesn't seem possible. And because he's
Yes.
fighting these guys on biplanes, and he's on the wings, and he's like fighting the pilots, and the pilots are trying to swerve to get him off, and he's just going. Oh my gosh, just so the pitch to you is you go to dinner first, you know, you have a couple drinks, and then you're maybe not paying attention in the first hour of the movie.
Okay.
And then as you start to sober up, then it gets good. And then you're definitely going to get your money's worth, and you won't even care that the first hour was terrible.
All right, that's a good way to sell it. Okay.
Yeah,
All
but I
right.
would definitely see that in the theater because you want the big screen.
Sure.
If you, I would, I mean, it might. I don't know if it's still on. It's probably not still in IMAX, but
Yeah, I don't know.
you want the big screen because it's really staggering
All
how
right.
good that sequence is.
Okay, we've got some good movie recommendations there. I'll add those to my list as yeah, we've got a
And then the other pitch I would say is a good thing to do is if you know any independent filmmakers and
I
they have a
don't
movie,
know any.
right? Yeah, and they have a movie on Tubi.
One. I know one. I know one.
Yeah, Tubi pays pretty well. For
Okay.
you turn it on, and then you go to the store. You go to work. You go do something else, and just let it play. Let the ads play, let it play, and then do the same thing like some other time. And you don't have to watch the movie. The independent filmmaker doesn't care generally. So you just do that, and then they make a little bit of money, and your cat has something to watch.
And what was the name of that movie? Because you cut out a little bit just there.
Oh, the name of my movie is Upcountry, which you can find on Tubi.
On Tube. Oh, I see. Yes, yeah, you're talking
Tubi is the platform that's free, and it's
Gotcha.
all ad supported. And so what you do is you just find someone's movie on Tubi, you just let it play, and you go to the store.
Gotcha.
Because who cares? And
Well,
just let the ads.
Upcountry is worth checking out. For those of you who don't know,
Thank you.
Lucas is a independent filmmaker. You've done what, 3
I'm
full lengths?
on my third feature. I'm editing my third feature. Finishing the edit. Trying to finish the edit.
I've been lucky enough to see the rough cut, which was quite good. It left me
Thank
wanting
you.
more. So yeah, I can't wait to see that out there. And before we let you go, Lucas, of course, please let the good people know where they can find you and find all the great work that you're doing out there.
Yeah, it's MaineBasketballRankings.com is the website, and it will rank for you every high school basketball team in the state of Maine, and then you can be mad about that. And it will also predict every game in the high school basketball season at roughly an 80% success rate. And then there's also football, the same thing for football, softball, baseball, and the soccers and lacrosse, and most of the heel point sports or the tournament sports, something like that, because you got to keep the people subscribed during the off season. So, and then there's the Maine Basketball Rankings podcast is wherever you do your podcasts. And then there's a Facebook page and all that.
Awesome. Well, go check all that stuff out, guys. Go give him a follow, especially if you are a fan of high school sports, high school basketball in the state. Absolutely worth checking him out. Well, Lucas, thank you so much for the time today, for your insights today, and a little different topic than what we usually do on this channel, but we absolutely appreciate that.
My pleasure.
And for everybody out there, thank you as always for watching and listening. If you do like what you're hearing here, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button down below. Absolutely helps the channel out.
This one?
Appreciate it. Yeah, hit it over here. You hit the little
Somewhere.
notification button as well. That will help you know when my posts are hitting, my new pods are hitting. And everybody, enjoy the rest of your Sunday night. And until next time, be kind, show love, and God bless.